am just buzzing from this incredible interview and conversation that I just got to have with Sunni Leilani. If you don't know who she is yet, please, I invite you to check out this interview. Watch this video. I promise you by the end of it, you are going to feel so much love and inspiration in your heart. She truly is an ambassador of the Krystar light, of really following our devotion and passion to the heart. And I'm excited to get to share some of the projects that she's working on that is doing such tremendous work, grid work, love work, water work through her music for the planet. So with so much love, it is my honor to introduce to all of you Sunni Leilani. Enjoy this conversation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have. I just want to get to dive into your journey, your story, just give you a platform. And, even while we're just kind of playing around a little bit, one thing that, I'm highlighting on your Mercury being aligned to Regulus.
Yes.
And I'm curious if you've played a little bit with the energy of the true sky, the true sidereal, because I know with the gate 59 as your sun gate energy, it's always been a Virgo, but now getting to embrace energy as a Leo. Have you played with that?
Absolutely. And that's really cool that you bring that up because I've been getting really close with a woman named Tej, and she studies true sidereal. And she said that the way she embraced the true sidereal, it's like the Western astrology that we've learned and that we've been raised in, it's like we embrace it because it's just how we've been, like what we've been like consciously aware of. And now, like with the true sidereal, it's almost like I'm like ready to process that level of truth or that different shift. And I remember being a little kid, and I would always, before I even knew what my moon sign was, I used to be like, I don't feel like a typical Virgo. And then I was like, but then I resonated with it because I mean, I love to collect data and I have millions of calendars and I'm working many angles. So I started to embrace that, but there was always something that just didn't feel totally resonant. And then when I said, "Oh, I'm a Scorpio moon," that made me feel like, "Oh, now I can understand why I have the depth of the way I feel with my emotional nature."
Hmm.
Then when you started to talk about the true sidereal, and it's like when you shared it, I'm not saying I needed you to share it to believe it. I just like you seem to validate a lot of your wisdom and your insights. It just seems to like it's like that one little like lock and key turn for me. So when you started, I was like, I wonder when Becca B's gonna start talking about it. And sure enough, you did, Becca. And I was just like, aha. So then I remember you sharing with me about how Regulus, the sun Ra, that the lion energy is strong in me. And then I'm like, now I'm like, okay, I can embrace because it's not only a Virgo, I mean, Leo sun, but it's Leo ascendant too. And
Hmm.
it seems to make sense.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
totally loving it.
It's just kind of shifted everything. And then even your moon now being in Libra in the true sidereal, it's like it's just that love, that nurturing, that beautiful, beautiful type of Venusian energy that is just bringing wholeness, balance on really a relationship kind of level. And I see that expressed through all of your music and your work that you do.
Yes, yes. And I told my nieces, I have triplet nieces, but only two of them came last night. They came at like midnight, right, with my nephew D baby Daniel. And like Ava and I were like laying in bed. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm telling her all about now true sidereal. I'm like, we're going to get all your charts done. And I was just like, do you know that my life purpose is just to eat good food, have good drinks, like have fun, make music, like dance. And I said, like, what a cool life purpose that is.
Oh my
So
God.
I've been taking that serious ever since you shared that wisdom with me.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. I'm going to click this.
Yes, please. I don't know if anyone's come on, but yeah, and I Becca B, like when I started to follow Leslie after you introduced the Stellar Nations, I saw one of their headings on their website about how that 2020 was the redemption of the fallen angels and the whale.
Mm.
Um, and I'll tell you, I when I got my Antares code, I have right in at my, it's just incredible. In my ascendant, I actually have the two new two of the new stars that were discovered in 2020.
Oh, nice
Um,
to see that.
yes, Al Suhail, which is an angel connection, and then down the Massa. Oh my goodness, it's Massa. It's on my Placidius, which is the only one is like the middle star, which is where it's like, what is the middle star? The second of the three stars. But that's in my third house in well, it says Scorpio, but I guess it would be Libra. But it's very interesting that I have those two stars and they were just discovered in 2020.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's exactly when I dove into putting myself into the equation with my music.
Wow.
That's when I just said, you know what? I've worked with artists on the road. I nurture artists, but what about it was like, what is like, I have to, for self, right? For self-love. And I just think that, I just thought it was very interesting that the whale and the angels come in and I'm with those two new stars. And I just thought it was like, I was reclaiming like my wings. And that's how Leslie like explains it. Like we're reclaiming our wings. And I just thought what a beautiful like way to connect to the stellar nations. I mean, I know we're all of the 13 stellar nations, but I just thought like, and I started to truly sing my whale song, my soul song.
Which is amazing because that one's aligned to your Chiron. So it is really your healing, the Alpharats in Andromeda, the angelic whales that,
Yes.
we get to honor for holding that song, and that song that most people have ignored for so long as no big deal, nothing. And realizing now the veneration that we can put towards the energy that that angelic nation and those like you that are connected to it have been bringing your voice forward to support us for this time of really starting to remember our connection to the earth and to the mother. And there's so much emotion to that for sure.
Yes. Yeah, so I just thought that was really brilliant, and I thought that was a nice, like, kind of way for like to show how even I was disconnected from my own soul song until everything was like aligned, and it was just like right when those three new stars came into consciousness, I was like, I was actually like, I feel like I was connected to that, and it's nice to know how we have this blueprint of our own soul showing itself to us no matter what time, no matter when, like, and no matter what age, because we're eternal beings discovering all anew every single day.
My gosh, I love that. I actually want to dive right in, because I
Yeah.
think that's a perfect thought and question to really dive into, knowing your blueprint, knowing that we have our astrological chart our whole life and we have different lenses that we can see it through, and getting to feel that authenticity of you starting to see it through these different lenses that are allowing you to just shine more, to come more out, have your wings, right? Sing your song.
Yep.
I just would love to know more about just your story, your beginning. What actually started to awaken that passion for music within you?
Okay. Well, if I can go back to like early life, I'll say I loved poetry. My first real connection to, I think, to song was in poetry first. And I had a, even from a young age, I just had a strong urge to express myself. And I always did it through writing poetry. And then I remember like around 14 or 15, um, my mom was a single mom. We didn't have, I mean, I didn't have any instruments around. I was pretty much just like, I grew up with, my siblings were very athletic. I was like really kind of chubby as a kid. And I didn't like all the uniforms. There was like even the large was too tight. So I never felt like I could express myself in my body. So I was all like the uniform was tight, like the whistle would blow, I'd have to go pee. So like so I started to find my peace in the water, swimming in the ocean, because I grew up near the Atlantic Ocean, and writing poetry because poetry was like, and I I had a teacher in 8th grade who taught us modern poets. So she was like, there was no structure, no rhyme, no reason. It was just like purely like uh just expressing self through individual, just your own individual rhyme, meter, whatever. So I studied modern poets, and then when I left at 19, I headed out to San Francisco to follow the beat poets, even though they weren't necessarily still like the beat movement was long gone, but it was still, it was in my heart. And I think I started singing songs, like putting the songs to kind of like a sing song, like at 14. So by the time I was 19, I was singing songs. My first roommate had a guitar, and I started playing on her guitar in my first year in college in the dorm. I My second year I dropped out because once I started playing the guitar, and I know you know that feeling because you hopped on you took off to Hawaii with your guitar, and you just were like, you just get like it just becomes like all you can think about, with other things. So I started playing the guitar, and I just self-taught. Someone told me, don't give up, Sunny, just keep playing, learn a song like that, how to sing like the back of your hand. So I picked up the song from Fleetwood Mac, I Don't Want to Know. And because I knew how to sing that song, I just looked at the chords and I just started playing them because I could I could sing the song out loud. And then that's when I started to write my own songs, and almost right away. And so that's how music, but that's like, I'm 52 now, so that's like over 30 years ago. I was in my early 20s when I picked up the guitar at like 22. So about 25, Becca, that's when I started to hit open mics. I moved back to the East Coast. I moved to Philadelphia, and I started playing at open mics, and then I started getting gigs in Philadelphia. And then I started working at a jazz club, and that's when I really learned how to, like, three major things: how to be like totally an individual, how to be very humble, and to be a good listener. Because at the jazz club, like all the old jazz heads would be like, I was still going by my birth name then. They'd say, Tanya, if you want to be a good musician, you have to surround yourself with the best. You have to be a good listener. You have to stay humble and be yourself. And I was like, wow, that was like the, like Mickey Roker, like when, like this, like 70-year-old jazz man that's like played with all the greatest, Art Blakey and Dizzy Gillespie. When they're telling you that, I was just soaking it all up, Becca B. I was just like, and so I worked at the jazz club for 11 years. In the last 5 years, I started to book musicians there. And at that time, a lot my musical pursuits kind of were like up and down because I was working, I was nurturing other artists, and I just quite wasn't putting myself into the equation. It's like maybe it's because I wasn't confident enough, or you know could be a number of different things, but I was like amassing energy and resonance of like how to really be that authentic self then. But music was always just around me, and it was jazz music. So that's really where my heart was. And then i I worked. So after the jazz club closed, I started to work on the road. One of the artists that I booked at the time, Melody Gardot, she went on to work get like signed with a major label. So I went on to work on the road with Melody. And once again, I was focused on her career, which was like some of the greatest times of my life. So for about 10 years, once again, I kind of put my craft on the back burner. But once you've accepted you're a co-creator, everything becomes like a creation, a co-creation. So the music was kind of like bubbling in my spirit. You know, I didn't touch my guitar. I mean, I was um my guitar would be at home waiting for me, and I would get home and I started like I just kept writing, kept revisiting my voice notes. And then so after 10 years on the road with music all around me, I got called to Standing Rock. And that's where I was like, I think like Great Spirit was calling all of us. And I think it was the great call to like know self, but through protecting water. And then going there to protect water for me led to going there and like having a relationship with water that
What
I
was
didn't have
that
to.
calling?
Yeah.
What was that calling? What you said you got a calling to go. Like, what was
Well,
it?
I was, yeah, it was just, it was like a spiritual calling, but it was also like really real, Becca B. It was like, I was celebrating a birthday. I was off the road for a minute on a break, and I was going to help a friend paint a cabin in Montana, and I was on the Greyhound, and I met two young Native American Indian boys, American Indian kids, and they're like, you have to go to Standing Rock, Sunny, because at this time I was now going by Sunny, and they're like, you have to go to Standing Rock. I'm like, I have to. So the calling was water, like to protect water. So the calling came like just from like this knowing, like my body just lit up when I heard protect the water. They're like, you have to go and protect the water. And I was like, I think that resonated because I always found my truest connection to who I was in the water.
Mhm.
Like when I was a kid and not quite comfortable on land, like I could go in the water. I was weightless in the water. You know, like weighing 190 pounds doesn't mean anything in the water because you're weightless, right? So I was like, I have to go protect the water. And those kids are like, come on, Sonny. And I said, well, first I have to go paint a log cabin. But then I'm gonna go to Standing Rock. And so I went to Standing Rock and I didn't go back to the road. Melody wept. I was just like, I'm staying in Standing Rock. And so that was the calling. But the calling was kind of like I was, you know, being of a mixed a mixed heritage, cultural. Like, I wasn't raised with any traditions, not from my Filipino father, not from my mom that was European, American Indian culture. I was raised with no tradition, which is okay because I think that like this new earth or where we're headed, it's like I'm a clean slate in a way, right? But when I'm fed tradition, I soak it up and I feel it. But a lot of the elders that I've come to know, they want me to create my honor and be respectful of star beings, human beings, like all life, but do that from your own self knowing.
Yeah.
So that I think that calling, Becca B, was and I do think it could have been from stars. I mean, like it could have been from the youth because Standing Rock truly was initiated by the youth that were just tired of seeing their friends committing suicide, losing their lives to drugs, losing their lives to, you know, ancestors that were taken and forcibly removed from their reservations and put into boarding schools. These children had had enough, right? And, you know, 8 years prior to Standing Rock, you know, Obama had visited the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and said that he was like to get their votes, but he would be like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to honor the treaty rights. I'm going to honor your rights as, you know, sovereign beings in this great nation of the United States, Turtle Island. So whatever we call it. But like, I remember like these little kids now were teenagers and they're like calling to their representatives, where are you? Why aren't you stopping this pipeline that was rerouted from, it was supposed to go through Bismarck, but you know, of course, there was people that stood up and stopped and rerouted that pipeline, and that pipeline went through the heart of the Sioux Nation.
Mm.
And these kids had had enough, so they ran to the Enbridge office in Iowa, and they were turned down. No one would meet them. Then they ran to Washington D.C. and they asked for counsel, again turned down. So they ran back home. By the time they got back to Standing Rock, teepees were up and people were there protecting the water. So it was a response to the ongoing genocide of their peoples, which is like all of us, you know? So, and if you were happen to come across two kids on a Greyhound and they tell you to go, like, that's like spirit embodying those two boys and saying, talking to me. That great spirit was like, you got the vibration, you felt the water calling you. Now there's two young boys in flesh telling you to go. And I did. Yeah.
I want to come back to this because this is so beautiful. And I really think it speaks to all of our hearts. And, you know, I want to highlight again you as a Sun Gate 59. This is the
Okay.
gate
Yes.
really feeling things within your body, knowing things, right? And even from a young age, like just your story of that courage of leaving the East Coast and following your passion of your heart to go all the way to San Francisco.
Yep.
And I know you told the story so beautifully, but I can feel within there nothing was handed to you. It
Oh,
was a
no.
free fall of trust of like, well, here I am, and I'd love to just kind of know more about what that experience of trusting that feeling, because it really feels like you've lived the Gate 59. You've lived following your passion, following your heart. And yes, you may have spent a lot of your time encouraging other people's careers, but you were still in the flow of something so important that you said that jazz singer had shared with you. Surround yourself with the
With the
people,
best.
with
Mhm.
those, and I'd love to just kind of know about that. Were you supported as a child to go follow this dream, or was this something that you just even had to break away from everything to be this dream?
Yeah, great question, Becca B, because I definitely was not not supported in the traditional sense of like, I mean, my father was he was like a hit or miss dad, had another family. I was kind of like family B. So, and my father being like a strong Filipino, very like a big dreamer, leaving a third world country, coming to America. It's like he like very, you know, the few times that he crossed my path, when he knew I was an artist, he was like, it was like, it was like, do something with your life, be a doctor. And I was like, I don't think so. My dad wasn't. So I wasn't, and then my mom, on the other hand, totally loving, totally like, um, supported everything I did, but didn't say, didn't like, she just loved. She didn't say, yes, go follow your dreams. She was just giving love by staying devoted to being a mom, a single mom. I'm the youngest of six kids, like broken marriages, you know, like, my siblings were like the United Nations. I have like a blonde hair, blue eyed sister. I have two Afro-American, half Indian, European brothers, big. One had like when I was a kid, one had a 17-inch afro. The other one like parted his hair down the middle because one wasn't black enough, one wasn't white enough, so my mom had like a troubled life. So she didn't really like, she was like, her support was just being a present force of love, right? But she wasn't saying like follow your dreams. It was just like make ends meet, take
Mm.
care of yourself, like be self-sufficient. So basically, to answer your question, I just went full on, just on my own accord. So yes, the Gate 59, without even knowing that, was definitely alive and active. And we had talked about how I almost even blocked that off because I had had some assaults and had been raped, and so like I shut down the body, but it was still saying like feel it all, Sunny. So that's a great question because in hindsight I was always following it even unknowingly. I think that's how powerful these gates can be. Like how these circuitries and this body as a, like you said, it's our spaceship. It's our, it's like where it's at.
Well, and it's also a testament to the devotion of our soul through many lifetimes, and getting to feel that, your mother held that love, maybe not in a very specific way, but just as a mother's love, right? That
Mm-hmm.
allowed you to have that foundation in your childhood to
To
not
go.
feel as though anything was going to be handed to you or shown to you in any way, that you had to follow that fire in your heart, that Leo in your heart,
That
right?
Leo energy. Yeah. And that's what's really cool about how when you were like sharing the shift into true sidereal, it's almost like I feel like the way I interpret it now is like I wasn't ready to have that until I was ready to follow that true, because isn't it like a kind of like a philosophy that like we're things are shown to us when we have the capacity, the heart energy, the mental energy to like receive it and not miss that moment to like have that our eternal being speaking to us and like us being ready to take it and run with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like the true sidereal, um definitely with the Leo energy, is it's from the heart, because I think that's the only consistent thing that I've ever done in my life is follow my heart. Even when I'm told, don't follow your heart, it'll lead you wrong. Well, no. And we've been kind of like taken away from believing in those messages, because if we follow our heart, we're not controllable. We can't be manipulated. It's like even in the Christ consciousness, they say like the self, like the heart, like protect it with that the self-righteous like breastplate,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because that's how powerful the heart is. And let your heart, like let your brain or your mind be the servant to your heart. Like that's like, unless you were like raised with that kind of, would that be Gnostic? Would that be like that Gnostic teachings of like the wisdom of the heart, like these deeper teachings,
It feels like the Blue Ray teachings, the law of
the
one,
Blue Ray? Yeah.
are true Christic teachings, that it's so beautiful that, like you were saying, you didn't have all the tradition or the programming in the beginning. So it's like your heart, connected to the heart of the whale song, so to speak. It just got to really follow that heart song. And when I think of you, Sunny, you to me are an ambassador as a representation of following the heart and the heart song.
Thank you, Becca B. Because I feel like that is exactly what I've done, have always done, have been kind of journeying on my own for a long time. But that's what was really interesting about when I reached out to you. I feel like for the first time that I can actually, like, I have a family, like a soul family, a soul tribe, where I could not feel, even though I'm still kind of on solo, but I'm not, because I know that I have the Krystar family, the Blue Ray family, the whales, all like, and I reached out, and the way that you were able to embrace was to share this dialogue and this transmission with me. And that's like a testament that we're not alone,
Mm.
because we can often feel alone
Yeah.
when we're following the heart song, especially when in our culture, like we're not told to just go have fun, like dance and sing just for the spirit of it. Like, it's like, uh, and that's really where the true gift of that is, like just to do it because you're devoted to the heart, not because you need to make some shells, even though I am trying to raise shells at this moment, but I'm still raising shells in other ways. But it's like I've learned to just say, you know what, I'm going to ask and not be afraid to ask, because I have a mission, but and I don't have to feel so alone in it. And I think that this is where everyone's at, because everybody wants to have beauty and um love in the world, especially when we see so much destruction and so much fear and violence. Like, I feel like that is, even sometimes people are even ashamed to create beauty in that world because we know so many are suffering. But when we know that, like for me, the teachings of connecting to my galactic being, I feel like it's almost necessary to follow the heart song because that's where the liberation for all will be. So it's like, I want to dive in deeper and create more beauty because that will dissolve away all that violence and fear without, like you said, let love do the work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I want to ask you about Hawaii. Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yes, absolutely.
'Cause, we've jumped kind of right to that amazing, and we are going to come back to Standing Rock for sure, because that's such a pinnacle for this love of water. But obviously, love of water would have started much earlier, even the love of the whale song, because at what point were you called to the Hawaiian Islands and, brought into that? It just, I can feel it, that it's like the tribes of the many tribes in the nations of the true star seed nations that have been holding the caretaker, the ambassadorship for the land, have really welcomed you in many places, and Hawaii feels like one of those pinnacle places, maybe even tied into
Yes.
the name a little.
Yes, absolutely. So my first visit to the Hawaiian Islands was, I do believe it was like 2000, maybe 10, 9 or 10, like, or maybe even 11, to like around that year. I was traveling with Melody on the road and we had off time, and I was practicing Buddhism at the time, and we went to the island of Maui. It's the first island, and I know that's where you spent many lifetimes, and also in this iteration of your beautiful life. We were in Paia, but we were recording and rehearsing in a studio in Lahaina. I don't remember the Sunset Sounds. I can't remember. Lynn Peterson is the fellow that ran it. Um, so that was the first time that I was welcome on the island, and so I was trying to find the community center where I could go and chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo on the island of Maui. So I find the community center. It's in Lahui, and I remember it's in February. I go there, and I walk in, and it's all women, Becca B. It was Women's Month, where all of the meetings that were open to guests were for, there was like a special meeting for women. We were celebrating women in the Nichiren Daishonin's tradition of Buddhism. And everyone in that room, Becca B, was my auntie, my grandma, my sister,
Yeah.
my feminine female cousin, and they were like, Sunny, you are not leaving. You cannot leave. So that's how I first found community. And they were like Hawaiians, Japanese folks, Filipino folks, like all like, you know, Tanaka Maoli elders there. It was like a wide variety of beings that were all there gathered and chanting, but we were in feminine, form. We like all connected as women. And I had made a record at the time, and I had like 1,000 copies of my first record called Joy. So it is like 2011. I handed them out, and they were like, please don't leave Maui. And I said, I gotta go back to work. So um so that was my first visit. So I kept going back a few times to Maui. Then I started to go. Then I found a broader community. Then I visited Oahu, and then my first true like solo sojourn was to Kauai.
Mm.
And at that point, I was traveling solo. I wasn't on the road anymore with Melody, and like Kauai just kept being the place that I continue to journey back to. Then in Standing Rock, I met Earl de Leon, my Kanaka Maoli elder, who was on the Big Island. And then that's when I was invited at any time. Earl said, "You are welcome in my home. Come and hang out with the Aloha Aina freedom fighters." And they took me to all their small locations. And that's when I was gifted Leilani from Sunny to Leilani. But that was fast forward to 2017. So, so from 2010 to 2017 is when, the islands kept calling me, but Kawaii was the one that I was kind of solo. And and then when I find out that it's a Stargate, I'm like, aha, like, I mean, they all are, but there's so many Stargates, Becca B, and I want to like grid work and find them all.
Well, that's just the thing that really highlights for me is just your calling to be there. And it's like when you feel it, you feel it. And I had that same experience when I first stepped onto the island. It was like the first time I'd ever felt home in this lifetime. And it's
Yes,
really emotional to think about it, right? And
I know.
far as
And you had a son born there, a
yes, yes,
beautiful, yeah,
and just your calling to Kauai, just that inheritance of remembering the 12 Stargate, the Aeoni journeys, right? The Blue Ray
yes,
journeys, as you held that space as the 12 Stargate. And in so many ways I see you as that warrior. That's why I put that in the thumbnail, as the warrior, right? Because it's like you are being the courage to be this song. Our songs our songs that we have sung from the Anuhazi languages, to speak to the land, to be the warriors of the land, the ambassadors of the land, and the stargates. And as we hold that energy, it's like you feel it. The land wants you to come back.
absolutely. And at times when you need the land most, because the by the fifth journey back to Kauai, I was actually had been assaulted in Portland, Oregon. I was in a relationship where I was I was just about to like totally remove myself from the road. I had a trip to Oman. Melody was playing in Oman, and I had to go to, so I went to the Middle East. And when I came back, I had known this relationship was kind of on, it had been a year, and I knew I had to leave it. So I had like prepared months ahead and had told Darren, that was the fella's name, that like when I returned from my work trip, that I was going to pack up and, remove my things. And, I had by no means left him high and dry. It was like, like I had given a year to try to make this work and it wasn't working. And in a moment of just uh, like that, like he just got in my space and I pushed him, and he came back from like falling and just clocked me like right above my eye. And I was knocked out, and when I woke, I was like being strangled. And I remember like my eyes must have spoke and said, "Please let go of my throat." And I remember he jumped off me. It was like supernatural. It was just a weird moment, but I knew like this was like one of my rock bottoms in a way. And like rock bottoms can happen even amidst the most beautiful lives and like in good flows. And I remember like just like crawling out of there, Becca B, and I had a ticket to Kauai. And I was like, thank goodness. And so that was like, and that was the island that really nursed me back, because I was at that point, I had bruises on my face for 3 months. And in Kauai, I just curled up and just got my mojo back. And it's like and there's a song that chronicles that. It's called Aloha Seed. It used to just be called Seed. But when I was healed from the land or restored from the land of Kauai, it was Aloha Seed. And it's the garden island of Kauai that saved my soul. That's kind of like a mantra. It's not like sometimes what is like captured on in like on the CD or in the recording is somewhat different from what I perform or sing when I'm like in like channeled. So like sometimes new little bits of information will come from, because I also ask Great Spirit to keep me open. That's why sometimes the songs are quite different and they morph into another message, to stay open and be a channel so that I can continue to write songs because you can always write the same thing over and over and over again. So when I go into like a live performance, I just say, Great Spirit, please just keep me open channel so that like I can get the wisdom that maybe I'll need now, like so I can get through the pain that I'm experiencing in the future. So
And it's, I mean, I'm so touched by that. And I really want to just say thank you for the transparency and vulnerability to share that story. I feel like in the gridlands of the 12 stargates, that's the pinnacle of the wound. And
mhm.
just so much more of the love that you are singing through your songs to actually heal those Aeoni massacres and all of
Oh,
those those wounds, and even its connection to the 12 Stargate in Massacre, France, and
yes.
the Cathars and all of those stories. And, let's bring that into the water because, the healing waters, we're working with the crystal river spiral and the crystalline waters for purification. And, I can feel even in Hawaii, you were called to be with those that were the warriors to protect the lamb. And I have
Yes.
a deep connection to that, even within my own story within this lifetime, and even seeing many of the things that have happened in, say Mauna Loa with the last stands that they were just having to protect the sacred lands there, and
Mhm.
just that sense of the people, the warriors that will step up, that was represented in these two boys that met you on this Greyhound.
Yep.
And what was it when you got there and when you first went to Standing Rock and you first stepped onto the land there? I'd love to just get a sense of your experience, just the minute you stepped off the bus. What kept you
Yep.
there?
Well, what's really cool is my first journey to Standing Rock, I actually left from San Diego, and I was in San Diego at the time, and I was heading, because after Montana, I had a couple things to do. Then I was in San Diego because San Diego was another spot that I kind of like regrouped and got my bearings straight. And then I was always staying on the West Coast so I could get to Hawaii. But I was in San Diego and I bought my itinerary, Becca B. I opened it up and it was as tall as I was to get from San Diego to Standing Rock. I had an itinerary that took me like, it was like 72 plus hours, couple days on the bus. So when I got to Standing Rock, all I know is I was welcomed by Howard. He is Hong Papa Lakota, an elder. He I set up my tent there, and he had horses right next door to me. You know, this was his tribe. This was his like his people, right? And he just said, and I was buzzing around like cleaning up the horse manure. And he was like, Sonny, you gotta slow down. So that was my first, because I came with all this like go get him energy. And he just said, slow down. And I was like, so I instantly had the teachings right on my first day. Howard, may he rest in peace. He's in spirit world now, but he just took me in, and I stayed. I'm still connected to his niece Lynette Eagle Shield. They want to adopt me. I have yet to be adopted, but so right from the very beginning, Becca, I met folks that just took the time to slow me down and to keep me in my body. and and to follow the guidance of the body. So the second person I met was my dear late friend. Now he's also in spirit world, Myron Dewey. Myron Dewey is he's a indigenous led um, videographer, movie maker, drone pilot, teacher from the Shoshone Paiute tribe in Nevada. He was manning the media tent, and I went to the media tent, and I met Myron, and this is the first day. And Myron, I said, I was introduced to a couple singers, and one of them was Alphonse, and I said, "Oh, I said, is he?" I said, "He's chanting, and he's singing." And then at that point, Myron said, "No, he's praying." And I really wanted to also talk to you about when you mentioned the word pray. We have to be careful with words. Now, would that apply to pray? Is it praying? Like, I wanted to ask you that because I'm sensitive to words and I think it's important. But Myron did say to me then, "No, Sunny, no one is singing, no one's chanting. This is a prayer camp." It's like, and he goes, "And we're praying." So I was curious, is that something that does a warrior have to embrace the praying energy to kind of find out who they are battling with? Or sometimes I even like to remove the word battle because like it's just so nuanced, isn't it? Because like, does a spiritual warrior ever truly battle when they come from the heart? Like, the need to battle wouldn't isn't necessary. Are we still living in times where we need to like imply like harness our warrior energy? But I remember Myron said to me, it's a prayer camp, and I that helped me stay focused. And that's when I realized that I was not making music for fun and games. I wasn't making music for entertainment. I was making music as a way to commune and and witness my brothers and sisters genocide, their pain, and change it. Mm-hmm. So, and that happened right away. Wow. And then the next person I met, I was told that there was a girl from New Jersey. Her name was Kei Kirimoto. I was told that there was a gal from Jersey, like myself, that was looking for cooks and dishwashers in the kitchen. And I went right to it was at the time, it was the seven, no, the Healing Nations kitchen. And I went there. I started making burgers, like shaping burgers. Next thing you know, it was 12 midnight. I had washed dishes for over 5,000 people with a team of dishwashers. And Becca B, I'll tell you, it was like a fine oiled machine because we had hot water that was actually cold water, was brought in big pails to open fires, warmed, then brought back to wash dishes. And this went on 24/7, morning, noon, and night. People praying over the water, loving the water, warming the water, washing the dishes, cooking the food nonstop. And that was it was like the main kitchen. And then many kitchens popped up in all the different camps within the big camp Osheti Sakowin. Then there was the Rosebud, and then well, I can't remember the Sacred Stone Camp where LaDonna Brave Bull. That's where the first teepees went up, where the young kids was LaDonna's land. And then Osheti Sakowin, which was like the gathering of the Seven Nations, and then Rosebud, which was like there was three main camps, but within these camps there was many little kitchens that were just given the same love to the water.
Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
is amazing. And just the fact that they were saying those prayers, and I want to definitely address that because I think that's really,
Yes.
really profound and powerful. And it's really helpful for us to remember that when we are working with beings that have a reverence of remembering the magic of words, that
Yes.
when they have to integrate into the English language, they have to pick the word that best represents. So
Yes.
from their native language and their native sound tones, it wouldn't have been the word prayer.
Okay.
And in Hawaiian, it wouldn't have been the word prayer. And, in India or in Hindi or in Sanskrit or in the true languages, it would have never been the word prayer. But when things get translated to English, we utilize the most closest word translation, that you can use, right? So
Yes, thank you.
when we go to the authenticity of what someone is relaying, we look past the etymology. We
Okay.
can know that etymology is created as a way to de disempower our sovereignty. And that is why
Mm.
this happened to the Aboriginals, this happened to the Hawaiians, this is the story of the land of North America, and not only of the North Americas, but I hear even people in Ireland talk about they don't even know
Yes.
their original tongue anymore. Most people do not know their original native tongue anymore. And
Mhm.
this was very specifically orchestrated. This has been orchestrated since the time of the Aeonis in the motherland of Mu. They take the children and they take their native
Oh,
language away from them, many times completely taking the children away from their culture, from their language, from their tribe, because if they can cut you off from your language, they can begin to take away your memories and
oh,
superimpose the foreign language into our native tongue so that we don't remember the true words anymore. And so now we say prayer, which means that we are allowing ourselves, it's that goes into the whole etymology of it. And so many times that is why I like to bring these things up, in order for us to understand etymology and the superimposition of language onto our words, so that we can learn to unplug the meaning from it and take back the true meanings of what we are saying. So when you
oh.
say prayer, when you say it from the heart of the language, and they weren't using English over
Yes, exactly.
in the first place. So,
Exactly. And that actually, I want to say that when I had my first um, session with you and you shared with me, and then also with the group on the WhatsApp, um, the Soul Speak Circle, just learning about the Aeoni Wars and things, it's like I didn't even have to know all of the history, but when you shared it, it was like everything just went, and I understood exactly why we're all like why things can happen expediently and exponentially, because once you find that vibration or that resonance, you don't need to know ABCD, you just and it, like I felt like my world just went, and I was like, oh, I need to learn more about Moo or I just need to even not even maybe know more, but just keep going in the path and the direction with all even more knowing, and just like wipe my hands clean of the martyr and the suffering and just keep on going in love.
mm,
And so your teachings and your mission, and like for many of us, we just, if we're searching or seeking, we will find the person or the being that just shares what they're sharing, like you do, so generously, and it will all start making sense in those moments where sometimes nothing seems to make sense. And when we live in this vast cosmos, like anything, all the unknowables, anything's possible. And it's like you can almost let go of like knowing the all the nuts and bolts, even though that is awesome to know because it feeds this seeking, questing, like um desire for all to be liberated and just be able to just not. I don't even I often wonder, will it ever end, like those levels of suffering? I think to some level we'll always feel pain, but that world of love, it's there. It's waiting for us. It's like right here still. We just and I think that we're all entitled to that, or not even entitled, but that's where we should all be vibrating and shining at.
Ah,
Yeah.
so magically and so beautifully said. And I think there's a whole conversation even just on that, but I just love that you've highlighted the simplicity of being in that vibration of love. And I think that's really what it is. I think it's like there is so much we can learn that is powerful. But if we come back to just implementing the practices, implementing the devotion of being that love. So those individuals that you spent so much time with were a representation of saying those mantras or those prayers or those words into the water.
Yes.
And that's huge. I have a beautiful story of an individual. She was traveling, a very dear friend of mine who did a lot of travels in India. And there was one place that the doll, because they have these little storefronts with the doll or the soups or the chai teas and things. And there was this one place that it was just the simplest little shack, in the big pot of dal, but it was like it tasted better than all the others. And she asked one day, like, what is it? Why is your recipe different? And he just smiled and he just basically shared that through the whole time he stirred it, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani
Oh,
Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And, that devotion of remembering that if we can bring that back, that it doesn't have to be mantras that are that you have to go find these fancy things. It's just our heart, that the simplest things of washing dishes should
yes.
be a prayer, should be a devotion.
Yes, and I love that recently how you in one of the was it the Galactic Star Report for Leo where you basically said where you focused on devotion because that's a whole different energy and resonance when and it's funny because I think because of all the tumultuousness and all like the power plays on people's like John Trudell says like these big predator energies they're mining our minds like they're mining our spirits our like we live in a world where they eat spirits like this predator energy eats spirits and I was like oh my god like he's right on it but it's like when so I think with all of this like I remember back in the day when I just thought it was funny to love JC to love Jesus because it was like it's like they took away the awe and wonder of it and then made you feel like you were some holy thumper or you were weird if you believed in Jesus it's like we like bits and pieces so it's they kind of like distract us from being devoted to such beautiful beings that had all of their heart and love energy to assist us in being the best eternal beings we could be. So like now I scream out, I love you, JC. I love you, Jesus. But I'm not ashamed to say that I'm part of the Krystar family or that I'm devoted. It doesn't mean I'm like some crazy person that like gives up their sovereign being to be devoted to goddess. It's like no, devoted is a beautiful word that like kind of like activates such divine energy. So I loved when you shared that, like being devoted to dissolving like anything that blocks us from the divine. When you said that, Becca, my body just lit up. Devoted, devotion.
Ah, speechless.
Yeah,
You gotta feel
I
it.
listen to your words sometimes, like, and I can repeat them like in my sleep. Like I was expounding wisdom to my niece last night. I'm like, and it's in the purest of like loving of ways. It's not, and I know that there is this. Some people say you shouldn't put people on pedestals, and I get that. But then I said, why not? If I can stay a sovereign being, why not admire and love someone that just speaks their truth? Why can't I put them on a pedestal? As long as I'm not going to be losing my self identity because of that, I get it. I see that sometimes I like to I want to admire and like soak in the words of people that move me to continue to be on the path and devotion to divine and beauty and love. So I love your words and what you share.
Oh, it's so much love. And you know, the beauty of it is what I really feel is we're recognizing, sensing when the divine flows through.
Yes,
It can flow through form. So it not only through each of us when we allow it to, but it flows through our pets, through the plants, through the animals.
yes,
And what we are truly having a love for is loving that energy that is coming through. And that's actually, I know exactly what you're saying. It is not actually putting something on a pedestal. It is actually seeing the divine in all.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that's what's so interesting about how we express things, and how like sometimes we don't, like someone in Standing Rock, I remember when I was like assisting in the kitchen, I always found myself gravitating towards the kitchen, because you know that that's where like stuff is getting done. It's like the kitchen is where it's at, and the food is where it's at, and everyone needs to eat. And some folks were not eating. So these kitchens were serious gathering places for spirit, right? And I remember this one grandma was telling me like she kept cutting the ends of the ham off, and it's like an old tale. Like then they finally said, why are you cutting that off? And then the ancient grandmother said, because I needed it to fit in the pan, so like it's like, oh wait, oh, so it wasn't like something like spectacular. It was like, so I feel like that's kind of like, I don't even know why I brought that up. It just makes me realize that sometimes we have to question our traditions or question this or that. And I'm like, I like the pedestal. I like admiring the divine, and like, and it's not like, yeah, it's very simple. And I like the way you just like express that. It's just witnessing the divine flowing through someone and being in awe of it. How about that? It's like in awe. It's not, you were just stopping and being in awe of the magical beings that are around us.
Mm.
And even the ones that are in the that are maybe manipulated and kind of doing evil, nefarious things, they were once divine too. And that's what I love about the kapu aloha, where it's like we have to almost like stand in like such love for the being on that polar opposite of what we're trying to do through a non-violent way, like holding that love for the fallen angels, or the arthropods that have gone south. Like we like holding the witness for them is what will restore everything. And I just love this. I love that. I know I'm bringing it back to Stellar Nations. I have them here, and I'm like, mm. I
I know.
love them.
I'm so excited every time that I get to reach out to Leslie, that we get to create something new to share, because I think it's such profound wisdom for helping us recognize it's all right inside of us, and we
Yes,
can't make something right and something wrong. And you're saying something that I think is so profound, because it's like being able to hold that veneration for the beauty that is all around us is key. And I might not get this entirely right, but I was in a meditation this morning, and the divine was speaking through, and the divine was saying to the effect of, stop trying to make the world fit into your dream, that you're
yes,
here to fit your world into your dream,
yes,
and that all of the universe is like all of the ingredients that you can choose from, and you are the artist, you are the chef, you are the creator. So grab what you want to pull into your dream
yes,
and leave the rest. That the ingredients are there, but you don't have to put it into your recipe. And then the
exactly.
divine went on to say that the moment that you can recognize that everything you have experienced in this life is of your manifestation and creation, because you can remember that you are an eternal being,
Yes.
that is not seeing this reality from just this one incarnation and these one little experiences that you've been, you will start to recognize the magic in everything that is manifested, even the traumas, even the pains,
Mm.
even the things that have been kind of thrown into your reality that might feel like a victim victimizer kind of situation. You get to recognize it from your own creation.
Yes.
And in that, I took such a humbleness within this. I'm really diving more into the womb chakra work. And in that, I stopped for a moment and I was like, what would it be like if I was able to take the perspective
Okay.
that rather than being born through the womb of that I was born through in this lifetime, that we could see maybe some of the challenges we've had, or maybe that it wasn't easy, or maybe that there was nefarious things that were kind of trying to inhibit or slow us as star seeds, or target us as we look at it from that galactic perspective.
Mm.
But what if I'm the one that hijacked that womb?
Yes. Yeah. And created a whole other experience for that womb too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
And that we get to now give veneration to that womb that allowed our soul to have birth within this lifetime, and where we can start to dissolve and forgive and clear all places that we've ever had any resistance to anything, even if it is something like abuse,
Yes.
wars, traumas. Like, this is where I feel like on a very generational level we need to look at these things, or we can start to recognize the youth that are coming forward now, that are going to the courthouses, that are doing these things, that are stepping forward, are getting to be the voice for many generations, right?
Yes.
And now as that song is coming through, we're all being asked, what if we start to sing our authentic heart song?
Absolutely. And I think that the youth that are coming up, and there are like totally activated. Even my nephew Alexander, who now lives and he's thriving on Kauai. You know, I sometimes I'm like, I say I don't want to ever be jealous, but I'm like, I'm jelly, you know, because like we live together in Portland, Oregon, and he's like, Auntie, we can't live together. He goes, so when you come to Kauai, you can visit, but we can't live. It's not, and it's all good, but we're, you know, he's like, he's really becoming his own beautiful sovereign being. And but I'm always welcome there, but I'm always like, still I have so many little things going on and I haven't gotten back yet. But my nephew Alexander is holding it down. He's like, he's an apprentice now with a plumber. He's a permaculture farmer. Like I feel like he's working those grid lines for me since I can't be there, Becca B. And I'll tell you, it just brings me so much joy because I think that he's 29, that age. I like his, like, just being a steward for the land was in his blood, no matter where he was, who his parents were, like his age, that group of beings that came in at that time, it is like in their DNA to be like the ones that like have like jettisoned from that middle of the bridge that we're building, and they're taken off. They're like, he's like, Auntie, I'm over the bridge and I'm on the land and I'm doing the stuff, and just keep going because I got this. And I think that the youth is doing that energetically, and it like kind of is creating the world where we won't even have to have trust, because love will just be the ultimate vibration and frequency, and we'll all just be able to be the light beings that, you know, Don Juan talked about when I was reading his books back in the day, like luminous beings just floating around. And every time we give birth we lose a little bit of our light, but we can always restore it. But do we ever have enough time? Do we talk to the trees and the plants enough to restore those pockets where when we exude or when we give birth? You know, Don Juan said that when a woman gives birth, they're like giving up so much of their light body. It's like, so I love that how you're talking about that womb that we passed through. We kind of like destroyed it in a way. Not destroyed it, but we caused it some major wear and tear.
I was the sixth born too, so
Yep. Oh, bless you, moms, or our moms. Is your mom still living?
yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. My mom too. She's 86. And like, I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry I was the last born. And I'm like, but you're done now, Her womb is finally restoring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's a beautiful energy. There's two things I'd love to highlight with that. And one, the interesting perspective that for those that your mother is still living,
Yes.
healing these rifts and bringing harmony to these energies is truly so much more of a divine impact to be able to do it while they're still alive.
Absolutely.
There is so much work that
Mm.
can be done no matter what, if they have already passed on and are in spirit form, it's fine. But in some ways it's a little easier to heal things when someone's already in spirit form.
Yes, because then there's not that uncomfortability or the shutting down because maybe you still hold, oh, I can't really be myself around my mom. So
Yeah.
you shut off or and it's very hard to really it's tricky to like be that free, you know, because you could still maybe remember your mom saying, if you had a brain, you'd be dangerous. My mom used, I was like, one day I said, Mom, that's really nice. So I'm not saying that inhibits how I communicate with her now, but I mean it could, especially if one is very sensitive. They might, it's so when they're in spirit, it's easier. It can be. But I tell you, it's been my mom and I still butt heads, but when we've surrendered, we really do a lot of great restoration work for beings on the planet that have been told don't speak until you're spoken to. Were raised by folks that went through the depressions and you know I mean just the baggage that or the things that that society had burdened onto um folks that were born in the 30s and after post depression, like wow, I just say, Mom, like this is the opportunity now to shed all that and speak your truth right here with me right now, even if it's going to hurt my feelings. Just let's go for it, because I can't hold back, and I'm not doing it to disrespect you. It's just that like sometimes I realize you're not just my mom, you're like this being that I don't know who you are. It's like very interesting how like if we can share that with our moms or our parents, like I know you're my mom, but you're also like, I said to my mom one day, like when she was getting like very weird with me, I was like, you're like a woman that I don't know. You're a powerful woman that's scaring the shit out of me right now. and she was like, she got it. I said, but it took like I was like, I'm not doing this to disrespect. I'm just doing this because like, shouldn't we have a chance to talk about this openly like that? So yeah, that takes a lot of like, I think that's just love. It's not courage. It's not ballsiness. It's not like kahunas or what the big cojones. It's like just love to speak that candidly to your mom.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to definitely introspect on that, just because I think you just downloaded so much wisdom for all of us in that right there. And as we get to embrace this, recognizing, this healing that is happening, recognizing the generation you were talking about with your nephew. A lot of these
Yes.
beings in, maybe their late 20s, into the 30s, we see a lot of these beings that are creating a lot of noise on the planet. And to be fair and to be honest, the ones that we really see the most that are kind of all over the TikTok and all over the different medias, many of them don't know what they're standing for. So they've been easily manipulated by the negative alien agenda. And the ones that are really, what we want to recognize is that's one small group of them.
Yes, very small.
And there's so many more like your nephew that we would have never known anything about what he's doing unless you were here to say, hey, my nephew's off on Kawaii doing this amazing grid work. And there are so many more, such a larger percentage of this collective that has come in that is being this ambassadors. I love the word
Mhm.
ambassador
It's a
as
great
a
word.
representation for the warrior ambassador, that you know what your purpose is, you know what you were doing, you're not being swayed by it, so it's not that you're fighting or challenging, but you are just being a representative of what you stand for and being
Yes,
for the earth as a steward. And I do feel
yes,
there are so many that are doing that. And as you get to highlight not only your nephew, but these amazing beings at Standing Rock that you got to spend so much time with, you know, you're highlighting many that are not being loud,
yes.
but they're doing it. And
They're
that
doing
we
it.
can start to heal that relationship, to recognize that beauty that's coming through, that's challenging things. And now we got the next generations coming through. So kind of like that energy of going like, yes, we do live in this world. Yes, there is pain. But again, it's what are you choosing to recognize, or the perception you're choosing to have of it in your world as you see it all going on.
Yes, very cool. And that can be as simple as just being in the presence of a baby. Like I have a friend whose baby is just turned 8 months old. It's like I know sometimes I still do like baby talk, but there's times when I just look at her and I say something, and like this child is like, and they're like the diamond beings, like diamond crystal. No, it's the diamond children. Like this child is already talking to me telepathically. Like I get what you're saying, and I could just show her like how to do something. Next thing you know, she's 8 months old, and her parents are already potty training her
Wow.
because like when we shift our perception and we kind of like understand that this is not just a baby, this is a being that's coming in at a time where like things are like they've never been before and they never will be again, right? And like we can just shifting how we communicate, or even if we use our mind and just show them like through an action, like this little baby's not even walking yet, but she's well, she is, but she's walking right to her little potty, and then she's no diapers are even being used.
Wow, that's actually still quite advanced to be walking at that age.
I
That's
know
a big
she might
deal.
be like kind of crawling towards it, but the thing is like she's already like, and she'll go like when she's like telling her mom and dad like I have to she's like they help her get they assist her getting on her potty, on her little potty, and she goes she and Kaka on the, and she's 8 months old. But that's because we're all like expanding like how we can communicate with these children that could be diamond children or they crystal children. It could, because we're expanding our consciousness and saying that they're not just babies and that they are babies still, but we can change how we interact with them.
Yes, yes. It's like the veneration of recognizing them as our ancestors
Yes,
being,
veneration. Thank you, Becca. That's a great, and also that ties into choosing the word ambassador because ambassador almost, it kind of like gives us such a, like a kind of like tall, powerful, but humble. An ambassador has a humility and a humbleness to them, but they're serious, and but they also are lighthearted too because they're they're moving from they're taking action from their heart. An ambassador takes action from their heart, but they're very serious. And I think seriousness coming from heart energy is a whole different, it's like it falls in that world of devotion, and that's what's so interesting about like when we used to be in like these schools, these mystery schools where everyone was learning about their moon, like and like about the power of who we are as from birth into our pubescent, and like we were in like we were being taught and shown in such a different way now. Like now it's like schools are just ways to watch children because both parents have to go off to work to make what to live and to have a home and to die before they even have lived life. It's like, yeah, there's no room for like learning these old mysteries and these powers of like who we are as little beings growing up in this magical world.
So perfect.
Yeah.
You just nailed it with the idea of the ambassador that has a bit of a serious energy to it. I really feel it's just knowing what one's purpose is. To others
Yes.
might feel serious, but the love really brings that playfulness and that joy and that happiness. And I think that's just the epitome of describing the Christos mission, being a Krystar being, being the Christ heart, is that you are that ambassador, but with love.
With
And,
love.
I think this is just such a perfect point in our conversation to just dive in to your next journey as an ambassador. I know you have something very special that your heart has been bringing you and calling you to bring forward. And I want to just ask you, Wisteria Dreams in Purple Ice.
Yeah. Whoa.
What
What, right? What is that?
what is that? Tell me, girl.
Well, I feel that, okay, it Wisteria Dreams and Purple Ice is it's a poem. It's a poem that I that came to me during like a live performance where I'm a channel. It's kind of like Ancient Love Story was my last big iteration of music, prayer songs. And Ancient Love Story was kind of the like the big story. Like the ancient love is kind of like it's like our ancestor. It's like I almost like feel like love is our ancient ancestor. Not even a person, not even a being, but a love being. That's why I love when you said a love episode, because really ancient love is like it's like our truest ancestor, God's source. And I feel like that journey of ancient love brought me to a very specific imagery of who I am in like from many lifetimes up into this lifetime now, and having kind of moved from my birth name Tanya, I think the spirit name is what it's like my eternal being is what's given me the Wisteria Dreams and Purple Ice. Because in the poem, I started to remember when I wanted to heal my wound with the Chiron activation. I was like, who is Tanya? Like that's my birth name. That is like who I came into this world. And I came into this world just a eternal being coming back. I chose my mom and dad, and they gave me this name Tanya. And Tanya was such a my mom and dad had that affair. They were never married. My like that it was a name taken out of like Dr. Zhivago, which is like a Russian love story. That's not even it's I met a Russian cab driver that said, "Oh, this Dr. Zhivago is he was like, this is a soap opera." I mean, it's loosely based on Russian history with the czars and the Communist Party and the Red Army and the White Army. But he was like, this is a soap opera, Tanya. And he goes, there's so much more to the Russian history. So at a very young age, I was already steeped in this tragic story of my mom and my dad. And that's what Tanya came from. And she was so heavy. It was just so heavy. So I feel, but she was part of me. She's kind of like Western astrology, like Tanya is the Western astrology, Sunny is the sidereal. It's like Tanya was like this being that got was she's been trapped, she's been frozen in purple ice, like because ice is like one of those states of water that it's like it's cold, you don't embrace it, it's like ice, it's cold, it's like it's not like this luscious water that we can dive into half naked, you know? You gotta like to jump in cold water naked, you gotta be doing Wim Hof. You have to know how to breathe and pull yourself up back from like almost going into hypothermic shock, right? Ice is deep, so I feel like the message from water in an ice form is allowing me to liberate Tanya from her trauma, past life trauma, kind of like what your recent classes are, because you're like, we can step off that karmic wheel. Like the Wisteria Dreams and Purple Ice is like that choice point where we step off the karmic wheel of suffering and we tap into the magic that wisteria holds. And I mean, it's like it's got a lot of magic and beauty, and but it's kind of trapped in the ice, and then it just, once the sun finds it and melts that ice, like the authentic being comes out. So this is the song. It'll be the title track of Wisteria Dreams and Purple Ice, Wisteria Dreams. And it's all about me honoring Tanya, letting her go, and just being this Krystar, or this light being that wants to liberate us all. And there's a lyric in the song, Becca, that says like, I'm numb, crying, dying, awaiting erosion that only ice knows. So like when the sun hits ice and melts it, it takes a long time, and it's the kind of erosion that only ice knows by having that relationship with the sun. So this is like, it's a big metaphor, and I'm still unpacking it myself. But that's, yeah, it's kind of like what how you're saying, like it's those ingredients. It's like me finding my own world inside, fitting into my own world by using my own ingredients. So that's was so yeah, it's even more. I feel like it's more of a metaphor or symbology of me really being authentically self and trying to, or urging to share that, and but for the liberation of all. Because
Mm.
I guess someone's going to have to take a journey, though.
Oh, the wisdom of the sages right there just poured through, literally a healing. I feel it in my heart, just even receiving that that touch into the to the invitation of an explanation, because I feel like you didn't quite explain it. You invited us into what it could be for each and every one of us. And I was so honored that you reached out to me to share with me about this journey that you are on, what you are manifesting, what you are creating. Immediately I was like, I got to have you on. Let's just tell the world about this, because I want the world to see you are the magic. You truly have embraced your name of Sunny in this lifetime, and every time I connect with you, I feel it in my heart. And as you are taking this new album and this tour that you are creating, this feels very special because it's a your own tour.
Yes,
You are
yes, actually, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because sometimes sometimes I forget to share some of the details, because these are all DIY tours. They've all been funded by myself, and then the ones that my close family that really always supports me. I'm walking dogs, I'm dog sitting, I'm slinging beers, and I'm like serving food. I do every kind of oddball trade to just keep the DIY, do it yourself tour going. And I'm really, it's interesting because I'm working. I was invited last winter to Corsica, which is the sister island to Ireland. The Corsican people have a very strong connection to Ireland, because they're kind of like the peoples that never, they were conquered but never truly submitted. Like I think of the Druids, and I think of the Druidic traditions, and the Corsican. They're an island that's just off the coast of Italy. I think most of their peoples were Genoese, like Italian, but they're the Corsican people. They were also, their language was stripped from them. You know, they were not able. There is a Corsican language, and it's being reintroduced right now as we speak to the Corsican people. And but they speak fluent French and they speak fluent Italian, but they have their native language, which is Corsican, and they are strong. And I feel like, and then I have a connection in the south of France, and I feel like there is like this grid work that I'm doing for the water is taking me to all these places where when I open up and channel, I'm really doing major grid work. And it's really very cool. So these tours are funded from my own, but this one particular Wisteria Dreams, I have the tour, the recording of the record, and then the making of the record. And that's why I enlisted in a Kickstarter. But I'm going to do one element of that, whether the Kickstarter is funded or not. But I just said I wanted to just open up myself and see like how more vulnerable I could be. And I have a friend, Amanda Flaker, that said, expand your, like, secure your vulnerabilities and expand your bandwidth. To me, that means like get deeper and more vulnerable and just expand out and just see what happens. And that's kind of like, again, Krystar mission, heart energy. So I want to do all of these things, but if it happens, it happens. But one iteration of Wisteria Dreams and Purple Ice will happen. And I want to travel with a couple other musicians. So that's why I'm kind of opening myself up a little bit more and seeing if I can raise shells to help me do all of the components. But either way, Becca B, I'm just going to go and do what I must.
Oh, that's the Krystar heart right there.
That's the Krystal heart.
So within that, I just again, I'm so honored to get to give a platform that people can see you, your heart, your passion, your love, what you're doing. How can people now find you? I'm going to be posting all the different links, but if you want to just verbalize, what are the ways that people can support your mission that you are on so that this heart song can get around the world?
Okay, well, that's cool because I have a website that I love. I love my dear friend Mel we created a website together. It's sunnyleilani.com. It has, if you just want to streamline and get there, there's an email that you can send me an email. I respond to everyone. I am like, you can IM me. My heart, I always say my heart is a home. So directly getting to me on from my website, sunnyleilani.com, all my music is listed there. I have 4 records out. None of them are like, I have a dream to spin a record with my nieces and I dancing around the record player, like, so one day I will have a record or a CD, but right now everything's available online, which is okay too, because digital spaces are magical spaces too, especially when for me, I kind of just have fun with it because I am blessed. We are blessed to like live in a world where technology is it's like we are the human tech. We are the technology. And if we can connect like Zoom, like you and I, Becca, from coast to coast, like that's magical. If we if we stay humble, if we listen, and if we're like truly individuals, we can like really polish our sovereign eternal beings and use everything at our fingertips for the best, so that's how I think everyone can just visit my website, and that has every like little love button you can hit to get to my music, to check out the Kickstarter, to visit me on Patreon, and email me because I love connecting to people
Mm.
or to beings.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's just so much love pouring in. Sunny, thank you so much for sharing your heart with all of us. I encourage everyone to please check out Sunny's work, her music, support in any way. Send her an email, send some love just
Yeah.
to let you know with so much love that I am so grateful for everything that you are doing, for following your heart, for having this courage, for being an inspiration for all of us, that we get to venerate you and celebrate the divine that is pouring through you, Sunny. So
Becca B, thank you. Thank you for your witness and your communion. You've really invigorated my spirit, my journey. You just kind of like when you came into my orbit and I into yours, through galactic astrology, following your like lust and your beauty, like your love for all that you are, just bam, it just kept me going. So I thank you for that. I'm deepest gratitude and love for that.
so much love, and so much love to everyone who's joined in, and to all who is going to see this and watch this. Let's all be our heart song. Thank you, Sunny.
Yes,